The important thing is we're here, so might as well make a start. Okay, so Australian Green Crescent was founded on the 24th of May this year. So we're quite a baby in comparison to everyone else that's here. Hasn't even been 2 months, and we're very excited to be on this journey and as a part of this family. So in Australia, the population is about 24 million, and about 600,000 is Muslim. We come from a part of Australia known as Melbourne or Victoria, and Melbourne has been rated the most livable city in the world for the last 6 years running. So that's sort of where we're from. Australia is a very multicultural country. There is 250 ancestries that are represented, and over 400 different languages are spoken at home. So you can imagine the richness, diversity, and also the challenges that come with that sort of context. Okay, so here we are. Victoria's at the very bottom, on the right bottom. Another thing about Australia is that we love collecting data. We love data. So every year, if not every 2 years, we collect data nationally. But unfortunately, the data available for the Muslim community and the culturally and linguistically diverse community is quite limited. So some of the data I'm going to be talking to you about today comes from the National Drug Strategy Household Surveys that are run every 2 to 3 years, where roughly 24,000 people complete an assessment, with participants being 14 years and older. And we look at the consumption of alcohol, tobacco and illicit drugs, and also the attitudes and perceptions towards these substances. So looking at tobacco trends in the last decade, 12.2% of people aged 14 and over are daily smokers in Australia. Long term, there's been a reduction in smokers. You can see that in 2001, it was 19.4% of the population. In the most recent assessment in 2016, that's reduced to 12.2%. But it's been fairly stable in the last couple of years. Fewer teenagers are smoking, and they're smoking much later on in life. So when the first figures started coming out in the 1990s, people were starting to smoke at roughly age 14. Now the latest stats show that teenagers are starting to smoke roughly around the age of 16. So they're delaying the uptake of tobacco. Australia has got a very big media policy around smoking. New laws are constantly being formed. For example, at the moment, it's against the law to be smoking in a closed place, in a closed public place, like a restaurant or a school or a cafe. And this year, laws have also been passed and started to be implemented about not being able to smoke outside as well, where there are other people. So you can see that the opportunity to engage in smoking is becoming less and less. So it's becoming a bit of a deterrent. Alcohol use is also decreasing in the last couple of decades. Young adults are drinking less, and as you can see from the image there, 12 to 15-year-olds are actually saying no to alcohol. Now, we don't know why this is the case, because Australia has got a very strong drinking culture. We don't exactly at the moment understand why they're refusing alcohol. My guess is that they're too busy online and addicted to the internet to have the time to go out and drink, which I'll talk about in a little bit more detail. So this is an area that we're quite interested in at the moment, and we'll be following up in the next couple of years. The other interesting statistic to point is those over 50 are drinking very heavily. This is what the latest research is telling us. So they're drinking 11 or more alcoholic drinks in the one sitting. So that's quite significant. 50 plus is the age that we're seeing the problematic alcoholic addictions. Okay, when we have a look at drugs, the stats also show that there's a decline, especially in the recent use of some illegal drugs. Unfortunately, 1 in 20 Australians seem to be misusing pharmaceutical prescription drugs. So I'm a psychologist, and in some of the work that I do, it's becoming very evident that people are actually doctor shopping. So they will go from one GP or general practitioner to another to stock up on over-the-counter and prescription medication. Ice or methamphetamines is the main form of drug problem at the moment. So 57% of drug abuse is with ice, which has increased quite significantly from 2010, where it was only 22%. So the marketing for the ice seems to be working really well. The concern nationally has been increasing in terms of drug abuse of ice. So public awareness is increasing, but unfortunately, so is the uptake and usage. Okay, here is the biggest problem in Australia. It's internet addictions. So when we have a look at the stats, I was quite shocked when I first came across it. So 24 million is the population of Australia, and 13.4 million people spend 18 hours a day online. I thought there must have been some sort of mistake in the reporting when I first came across this stat. I thought, no, surely not. 18 hours a day, like that's a lot. But unfortunately, that's the reality of where we're at in Australia at the moment. 92% of Australians are on the internet in some shape or form. 70% are able to access online with their mobile. The use of iPads, tablets is increasing. E-commerce trading is going through the roof. People are no longer walking into the shops to make a transaction. Everything is moving online. And I don't know if this is an indication of where things are at, but my late grandfather started playing games online at the age of 80 plus. He's internet illiterate, but that's where the social context is also moving. So with this, Australia in the last 2 years has had to look at new laws because for us, texting and talking on the phone whilst driving has become an issue. No longer is it legal to be in the car like this. It's big fines. When we break it down, we see that 1 in 5 minutes is spent on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. 1 in 5 minutes, that equates to about 3.6 hours a day online for social media. When we break it down, 18 to 44-year-olds, almost 100% of them are online now. And when we have a look at the 65 plus category, 68% of them are now moving online. My dad recently joined Facebook and he's in his 50s. It's concerning. So in my work as a psychologist, I'm seeing more and more the influence of internet addictions on family breakdown. The family is at home, but everyone's in their own little world. There's no connection anymore within families because they're sort of disconnected under the same house, and you can imagine the breakdown that's leading in terms of social fabric of society. And the other addiction that I wanted to touch on is gambling. To give you an indication of where Australia is at with this, is we have a public holiday for Melbourne Cup, which is a day where there are horse racing and people are betting. And we have a public holiday for that. Pokies machines are everywhere. They're becoming more and more accessible. The data from 2014, 2015 showed that the total expenditure for gambling is $22.7 billion. That's a 7.7% increase from the previous financial year. Now, this is the only area where we do have some stats from the culturally and linguistically diverse community. And that research shows that within the developed nations, including Australia, people from a culturally and linguistically diverse community tend to participate in gambling less in comparison to the norms. But unfortunately, when they do gamble, they're not using it recreationally. It's becoming a significant problem. With that, there are huge barriers to getting treatment because there's lots of stigma and shame associated with gambling in lots of the different cultures. So it becomes a barrier in terms of the people who need it the most are not accessing the support. So in summary, the context in Australia at the moment is such that substance addictions are on the decrease, but behavioural addictions are increasing. And I haven't even touched on caffeine addictions. Australians got a huge coffee culture. I was having a look at the stats the other day. We consume 5 billion cups of coffee every year. That's a lot. So at the moment, we're in a position where there is not many opportunities available for which are specific to Muslim or culturally and linguistically diverse communities when it comes to treatment. There's absolutely nothing available that's culturally and religiously specific when it comes to prevention. And we feel, given that it's only been 2 months since we've been established, that prevention is probably where we're going to make the biggest impact. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, together we are stronger.